And welcome everyone to an off-season America East chat. I'm Andy Katz, pleased to be joined by the new commissioner of the America East, Brad Walker. Congratulations. Brad, it has been a little bit of time since you've been in college athletics. You were obviously doing great work with the G League, but you've certainly had great experience, whether it's the OVC, the WCC, the Summit, your experience as a student athlete at Bentley. You have been immersed in the college space, but initially, when Amy made the decision that she was going to move on and to a different part of her career, and this job opened up, what drew you to it?
Yeah, and first, Andy, it's great to see you again. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. The biggest thing for me was, I had known Amy well. I knew the America East just because I went to school in the Boston area and some great institutions academically, but then also athletically. It's great to see that kind of combination of those two come together and to be a part of it, even in these changing times. Like I thought something was calling me back. And the opportunity presented itself, and I just couldn't pass up the chance to be connected with the league that was heading in such a great direction.
There's been some shuffling. I mean, the addition of NJIT obviously was a big move, going further south to connect, someone closer to UMBC. Obviously, the UMBC upset was a huge, great feather in the cap of the America East for some national recognition. What was your take, though, when you saw the current makeup of this league as it constantly had to evolve and deal with the challenges of some teams leaving over the last, decade plus and others coming in?
Yeah, I think what America East did a good job of, and I was a part of this with not as much with the West Coast Conference. I was with Belmont coming into the OVC, but staying true to the footprint of the league, staying true to institutions that have a similar profile. I thought the America East did a really good job of that over the years, and particularly the most recent additions with NJIT and UMass Lowell. I just thought they found great fits, and I think when the opportunity presents itself and there's a good fit and profile, that you just make the move that betters the league as a whole. And I think they stayed true to that. I think any league going through that process right now is trying to do the same thing. I think America East was successful at that.
All right, you're also taking over at a time of NIL. Name, image, and likeness. And one thing that I think has been a great equalizer over the last couple of months is I think there was an assumption, a narrative that was incorrect, that this was only going to benefit the big boys, if you will. And we have seen here this summer that it's not just the high-profile sports, and it's certainly not just the Power 5 conferences. If you've got a talent, if you've got a following, I don't care what your sport is or where you play, D1, D2, D3, you can benefit from NIL. How do you approach that?
Yeah, and I think that's okay. We're just in a time of change. I think the focus should be on how we can kind of support as best we can as new information comes out, the student athletes and these new opportunities they're going to present themselves. I'm happy to see that it's more far-reaching than people originally thought, at least initially, in how we're going to approach this. Because I think for the America East student athlete, that's a good thing. But there's so much more to kind of learn. We're so early in the stages of it. I'm curious to see how it goes, but I like seeing where it is right now.
One other thing that I think that the America East has done a great job at is really the depth of sports in terms of the excellence. I mean, I think like women's lacrosse, for example, Stony Brook has been a national program, and there's been great success across the board in a variety of sports. Obviously, your initial background was in basketball, but you've worked at the conference level with all sports. How much do you sort of, take, sort of a learning curve of making sure that you're there, the commissioner, for everyone, and to enhance and empower all these sports at all these campuses?
That's a piece that comes back pretty quickly. To your point, just working in conference offices for over 15 years, it's never been all about basketball when I was at the WCC or all about basketball and football, even though that was my direct oversight at the OVC. Running, even in my earlier stages, running tennis championships and softball championships and baseball championships over time. I have a pretty good feel for the. It's important that the experience of college athletics isn't about just one or two sports. It can't be. It has to be like a broad-based approach And for me, strategically, like some of the best ways that nationally you can build your profile is through some of these sports that aren't just basketball. We all understand easily like what basketball in general brings to the table with the NCAA tournament. But to your point, lacrosse and field hockey and baseball success over the years is a great way to kind of, really enhance the student athlete experience, but then also build up some national exposure for the league.
But for the student athletes and the coaches and the athletic administrators to feel like there's a connection to you, that it's not just you're sort of behind the curtain and only, certain people can even talk to you because, you are the commissioner. How critical is it for you to have, for lack of a better term, almost like this open door policy where if a student athlete at school X, wants to connect with you and feel like there's a connection to the conference office, that you are open to that kind of discussion and conversation?
I think it's incredibly important. It's one of the things I'm looking forward to the most is actually getting out and being out there for this fall, just, being at events and talking to student athletes, the SWAs, the ADs, the everybody, coaches in particular, hearing those that are closest to the student athlete on a more regular basis, like hearing what they're going through. Because to be honest with you, I've been away from it for 5 years. I've been, connected to one sport, and owners and general managers, that's different. It's a new connection that I need to make in a different region of the country. And it's really important that I get out there and understand what's going on in Vermont, Maine, and Stony Brook, the same as UMBC. But it should be no different than when I was going to Belmont and Jacksonville State and Murray State and finding out like what has changed over the years. How is NIL and the new landscape changed things for them on their campuses. So I think it's incredibly important, and incredibly important I do it at the beginning. And then being active on the national stage, whether it be through committee work at this constitutional convention. It's just important to have a seat at the table and a voice that speaks to the America East and specifically, but then also, the other like conferences as well. Just having a perspective and being a part of the conversation, I think it's important. I think the group getting together later this fall is important, so we can be a part of the change that's coming inevitably.
And Brad, one thing that I know you heard in your career is when a coach takes over a program, a lot of times they love to throw, we're going to change the culture and all that. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm here to say that Amy had a tremendous culture in the America East. Mm-hmm. The way in which they reached out to every, person on a campus in the athletic departments. They did a marvelous job with inclusion and diversity and LGBTQ, everything. And Amy herself was a trailblazer in the Asian American community, especially at the conference commissioner level. You are doing the same thing. There are very few African American commissioners. Kevin Warren, obviously, taking over the Big Ten was a major move a few years ago. You getting this job is yet another sign of things moving in the right direction. How much responsibility do you feel, though, in saying, you know what, there's only 31 of these jobs, and I've got one, and, I can be a mentor, a trailblazer here going forward?
It's really important to me. I've said this a lot. It's important that student athletes, ethnic minority males, and in my case in particular, are able to see faces that look like theirs and roles that they might strive to have. I think it's my responsibility to go out and network and speak with individuals, as many panels that I possibly can, things like that. And I'll tell you, I'm glad you brought it up. What Amy did is big shoes to fill. Because she was obviously passionate about it. Diversity and inclusion was a top priority for this league and for the board to support her in these initiatives and the student athletes kind of lean into it. I think it's great. I think we've already got a head start on this and something that I'm passionate about. I can kind of keep the momentum with it. And I take a lot of pride being in this position, and I plan on paying it forward.
Well, I'll tell you, congratulations. Look forward to working with you. And I think that the NCAA certainly got better by you being named the commissioner of the America East. Getting opportunities like this, earned opportunities, I think it's the better for college athletics. So congratulations.
Thank you, Andy. I really appreciate it. Look forward to working with you.